My name is Michelle. I am one of the student event staff members for Chico State Town Hall meeting. Thank you for taking the time to record this interview with us. We are excited to spend a few minutes talking and learning about your experience with writing a letter to the editor. To get us started, would you please tell us your name, occupation, and a little bit about your experience with the political activism?
Sure. So my name is Dylan Saake. I currently work at Chico State and I have a couple roles, but, I'm the Title IX coordinator. I do discrimination, harassment, and retaliation issues, or the DHR administrator. And then I also work with labor relations for kind of employee related issues and working with unions to try to resolve issues and things of that nature. Historically, so before I came here, I worked for kind of an advocacy organization. We did kind of farm worker advocacy. So California Rural Legal Assistance was the name of that organization. And so I probably have more experience political advocacy in that kind of my prior job and the work we did there. I'm a lawyer, I guess, attorney. Letters to the editor can be effective. It kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish, of course. But kind of creating community awareness, trying to get the attention of political policymakers. There's a lot of ways to use a letter of an editor to get ideas out there or voice concerns or try to get people to look further into an issue. And it can reach a broad audience. So, depending on if you're looking for a major news outlet, the New York Times or the Washington Post, or something more local, for us, the News and Review, or, the Enterprise Record, obviously, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, thinking through where you want to put something like that.
That's awesome. What can you tell us about writing a letter to the editor, and how committed are you to the overall efficacy of this action?
Well, writing a letter to the editor, you should spend some time thinking through who are you trying to reach, and what are you trying to raise awareness? Are you trying to get the attention of someone in particular? One thing about letters to the editor, most people in office have some type of press team whose job it is to identify when their name has appeared in the press and, send that information to them. And so sometimes if you write a letter and mention a political figure by name, often that ends up showing up in their office in some capacity, whether it's collected or whatnot. And there's snippets about how that person was mentioned in the media. So that's a good way if your letter is targeted to a specific person or you're mentioning a specific person and something they've done, using them by name. And if it's published, there's a good chance it will show up in their political office, and ideally in front of them and in front of their face. I think it can be a great tool, especially when partnered with other advocacy efforts. Getting a letter published can be a great way to bring awareness to either local community or someone specific who you're trying to target.
Okay, perfect. What are some tips that you can share about successfully using this action? Can you share any success stories?
Yeah, so I think a couple things, there's kind of two things about success. One is getting it published, and the other one is then from being published, it's being seen by people you want it to be seen. And so one tip is always know the guidelines of where you're writing. Do they have a word limit? Do they only publish letters that refer to maybe an article that has appeared in that publication previously? And so you really want to have an understanding of what it takes to be eligible to be published and make sure you're complying with that. So you really need to do some homework on what it takes and what's too long. Usually letters to the editor are expected to be pretty short. There's not too many words, there's usually a word limit and they're usually pretty sweet. So really one point. Don't try to jam everything or every comment you may have. Really focus on one thing and make that point well. So I think that's important as well. And then I kind of touched on this before, but knowing who you're trying to reach, and like if it is a member, a representative, or a member of Congress, put their name in there. Let them know what their role is in your issue, and either your objection to their position or your support. Like you can say, keep doing this great thing, and you can also say, I'm disappointed in you this way. Having some personal element to it, I think, is helpful. Like, either a small example of what you're trying to change or how the change can affect the local community, but also being mindful of you, depending on how you write your letter, you can, even if it may not necessarily be true, be speaking for a number of people in your community. And depending on kind of the way you frame that letter, you can be a single voice that's representing many people with that idea. So, using that opportunity to amplify what many people might think. And of course, financial, if it has a financial impact on them or reputational impact on them based on whoever you're trying to reach, or just trying to persuade the local community or raise awareness amongst the local community of an issue, all of those are things you want to think about and can increase how effective it is. And so, really, again, kind of goes to homework and thinking through ahead of time what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
I do think that, letters can be really great. And sometimes you can take, it's easier to get published in maybe smaller media outlets. And so being mindful of that and knowing that there's kind of this behind the scenes search for media that public officials offices are often doing, rather than, it'd be great to get something in the New York Times, right, with nationwide circulation, but a lot of people think that, and so there's a ton of submissions there, and so to get published there is more difficult. But something locally, it's a little easier to get published, and still you can expect that if you do it right to get in front of the right people. So really it's just being deliberate, in the process you're going to use, and how that works. And you asked a little bit before about success stories. In my old farm worker work, it was a lot, raising awareness of, for example, farm worker housing and how it can be such a hazard and a problem. And we were able to kind of create awareness in the community and then really specifically target like local representatives with, hey, your policy on this is problematic because of XYZ. So it could kind of pull in those people who have the opportunity to make the change, but also educate the community on, hey, doing these things. And so, we saw some good success around zoning, changes to our local housing, zoning ordinances that would provide for some of those farm worker housing, or, there's a lot of ways to do that. So, one example could be around farm worker housing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and it was great meeting you. We really appreciate it.
Can I ask you any questions just about next week?
About next week?
Yeah. Or the 5th or whatever it is, whatever it is.
We're still there's still some kinks that we still have to work out, but we're super excited for the event. It's going to be my first event working for Town Hall, so I'm super excited to see how it is virtually and stuff like that.
You've done it though as a student?
No, actually, I've done Sense of Place, but I haven't got the opportunity to do Town Hall.
Okay. Well, true first time. Okay, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, keep up the good work.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.